Everybody, Danielle Hargenrader here, and welcome to another episode of Unleash Your Inner Diabetes Dominator. Today, I'm very excited to bring you another person thriving with type 1 diabetes. Derek Foreman is from Lafayette, Louisiana, which is also known as the happiest city in the United States, which I did not know. We'll get into that in a minute. He was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 1985 at age 2. Derek is a certified physician's assistant, but he is no longer in practice. He's a blogger and a coach at lessthan7diabetes.com. Derek has been married for 8 years and has 3 kids, 1 boy and 2 girls. And a fun fact about Derek is that he cuts his own hair. So thank you for joining us today, Derek. How are you?
Thanks, Danielle. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So why don't you, as we usually do in our interviews here, give us a little rundown. So obviously you're 2 years old when you're diagnosed. Maybe your memories are not that great. But give us what you do remember and kind of the path you traveled from then, to physician's assistant to blogger.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So yeah, I really don't remember anything really about diagnosis. All I know is what I've been told. Basically, I had the typical symptoms. I was wet in the bed, threw my diaper and everything. Had the funny breath and just cranky and not feeling well. It was actually my grandmother, my mother's mother, who kind of saw the signs and said, "Hey, something's not right here. I think this kind of looks like diabetes." And so, sure enough. So yeah, that's about the extent of my knowledge there. I was 2 years old. Of course, my parents had to fight the typical 2-year-old, child, the terrible twos, I guess, if you want to call it, along with diabetes, but it really didn't seem to interfere with anything as far as school and things like that. I did well in school. Back then we didn't have anything like a 504 plan like what the kids have now, or at least we didn't know about it if it did exist. Right. But I went to the same school from kindergarten through 8th grade, and so I guess I over time earned their trust, and they kind of let me do what I needed to do, and all the teachers understood, so that was well. Then started high school. I got on the pump when I was, I believe, a freshman in high school, freshman or sophomore in high school, and that totally changed my life as from injections to the pump. No, it's a radical when you're taking NPH and regular.
Yeah. So is it safe to assume that you're still on a pump today?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Can I ask what type of pump you choose to use?
I'm on a Medtronic right now.
Cool.
I don't have any. I used a couple of different pumps. I've seen all of them, played with them. But the last time I bought a pump was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and I had been on Medtronic, and at that time I didn't see any major changes, so I just stuck with Medtronic. Now I think I may switch, but anyway.
But it's nice to have options.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me a little bit about, was it diabetes that made you want to become a physician's assistant? How did that come to be? Or were you always interested in medical stuff?
Yeah, that kind of did help out a lot. My endocrinologist had a PA, and so I talked to him about it a lot throughout when I was in high school and thinking about that. And so I talked to him about it, and he kind of gave me some insights and explained to me what it was. I didn't even know what it was at that time. So yeah, I learned a lot from him, and then I actually had to go and have open heart surgery when I was a junior in high school, and it's totally unrelated to diabetes, but a totally different experience, and going through the healthcare system and staying in the hospital and all that.
So I'm sure people watching are going to want to know just a little bit more about that. So how do you go from average kid to I need to have open heart surgery? Give us a little background on that.
Yeah. So I was born with a VFD, which is ventricular septal defect. I had a slight murmur, but nothing too concerning. They were just gonna watch it. I went to the cardiologist, I think once a year, maybe once every 2 years, something like that. Never had any problems with it, and I was real active, played sports. My junior year, I was very fatigued on the baseball field. I mean, I could run, run from home plate to first base, and that was it. I was winded. I'd come home from practice and just fall asleep and sleep till the next morning. And so, we went to the cardiologist to check it out, and what had happened was somehow the muscle in my in the right side of my heart, in the ventricle, had grown across the actual chamber. So I had basically 2 chambers forming in my right ventricle.
Wow.
That was blocking the blood flow there. So I had to go and get that muscle mass removed and open up that chamber again. And so once I did that, then everything was fine. So back to normal.
Good. All right. Well, I'm glad to hear everything is fine. Back to the diabetes. Just a little interlude with open heart surgery and back to the diabetes stuff. Continue.
No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. So you decided the physician's assistant. So were you a physician's assistant for an endocrinologist or just a regular doctor, or how did that work out?
Say that one more time.
Were you a physician's assistant for an endocrinologist, or were you just regular doctor, or how did that work out for you?
I was, in 2011, and worked for an endocrinologist for 2 years.
Wow.
And it was fun. I enjoyed it. But the more I got involved into our healthcare system and how everything works, and it was just very frustrating. And I felt like I wasn't able to actually help the patients in a way that I thought would benefit them. And so I decided to step away. And so that's kind of where I am now. I stepped away. I work for my parents. They have an oil and gas company here in Louisiana. So I do outside sales for them, and then I have my blog, and I do coaching for diabetics, which I feel like I'm doing just as good there as I was as a PA. So
yeah, and I think really what it is when you do get into any medical field, most people get into it because they do want to make a difference. They want to help people. They want people to feel better, be able to provide comfort and insights and things like that. And I've met so many people over the years that I've been interviewing people and just going to conferences where people have been regular doctors and now they prefer to be naturopathic doctors, and people who were nurses for years and years, and they said the same thing as you. They said, I have to step away from this because I feel like I can't actually do the thing that I wanted to be able to do when I originally decided to take this job, which was help people live the healthiest lives they possibly can. But like you said, the medical industry, pharmaceutical industry, the insurance industry, all of that kind of gets in the way and clouds that kind of original desire to just help people be the best versions of themselves they can possibly be. So tell me a little bit about your blog. It's called, so I'm going to say Less Than 7 Diabetes. So I'm assuming that is your A1C. Is that what that's based off of?
Correct. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how that began.
Okay. So yeah, I basically wanted to start, after I stepped away from medicine, I wanted to kind of still stay involved and be able to do something. And my wife is the one that suggested starting a blog. She's actually a dietitian. And so she still works in the healthcare field, and she thought it'd be a good idea to start a blog. And at the time, honestly, I had never even read a blog. I didn't know anything about blogging, didn't know how to blog. But she kind of showed me a few things, and I started.
And when did you start? When did you start the blog?
Let's see, that would have been uh, just a year ago. Yeah, but January of 2015. So yeah, not too long ago.
And have you been coaching just as long, or did you start coaching?
No, I actually just started that towards the end of last year.
Great. Awesome. So what else do you have going on in your life that you might be working on? Originally, I had met Derek. I like people, I'm pretty transparent here. He had contacted me because he heard me on a podcast. I believe you said Diabetes by the Numbers. Is that correct, with Stephen Shaw?
Yeah,
Shout out.
that's it.
Hi, Stephen. But yeah, so, and I had mentioned, one of the projects that I'm really excited to be working on for the future is a peer diabetes mentoring association. And I think that that's part of the kind of original thing that you and I and everybody else wants to do, is we want to help people kind of without the nets and red tape and everything that the medical industry is going to throw up in your face, so you can't actually get the people really, more than anything, it's just an ear to listen and an empathetic, opinion, somebody who gets what you're going through. So, what originally, is that something that you want to work on too? I mean, you want to help other people get connected with other people with diabetes? Because for me, I always say that one of the biggest parts of my diabetes management system, that when I didn't have it versus when I do, that is kind of the missing piece to my health, is having the ability to talk to other people that live with diabetes on a regular basis. It is like, it's therapy. It really is. And to talk to an endocrinologist that doesn't have diabetes, or even a parent or a friend or a family member, and I'm not saying that's not highly valuable, it is, but there's nothing that can replace actually having somebody else who gets your daily routine to talk to. So tell me a little bit about, what you might envision for something like that in the future.
Yeah, definitely. When I first started the blog, I just that was kind of my intention. And then as I've grown a little bit, I've started to, learn about this whole DOC, Diabetes Online Community. I even know that existed, and so in the last year or 18 months, I've learned so much from the online community, and met so many cool people. Um, and so, yeah, you mentioned being able to speak to other people with diabetes. I mean, I know one guy in Lafayette that has diabetes, and before that, I mean, I never really had anybody. All through school, there was no kids in my school that had it. I never really interacted with this. My sister was diagnosed probably about 12 years ago, and so we've gotten to share that together, especially in the last few years as we've grown closer. But other than that, it's been exciting to see this community, and to slowly become a part of it. And yeah, I'm excited to move forward, and to help where I can.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. I had a very similar background to you, where growing up, there was nobody else in my school system that had diabetes that I knew of, and certainly that no one ever spoke about it. And I actually only know one person where I live in Philadelphia that has diabetes, who's actually a client of mine that had been a client of mine for so long that now she's my friend. And, that I actually hang out with her and talk to her like a friend versus, just a coach-client relationship. But most of the people that I talk to with diabetes are online, and I've met them through doing interviews or actually going to conferences where, we've seen each other online, but then you get to meet in person, and then you exchange phone numbers, and next thing you know, you're, emailing and texting with people, and half the time it has nothing to do with diabetes. It's not even the point that you're just always talking about diabetes, like blah, blah, blah. It's just talking to somebody about life that has diabetes. I know it might sound silly to people who don't already experience this, but if you don't already experience this, I'm telling you right now, it's everything. It makes all the difference in the world just to be like, okay, well, I can reach out to this person. And even if I'm talking about work or school or, anything in the world, just because they have diabetes, it sounds silly, but it really does make a difference in the conversation and the connection. It really does bring people together. And I think diabetes breeds empathy. For most people, those of us living with diabetes, we are just more empathetic to everybody else's situation, because we kind of get what it's like to be in it all the time, whatever it is, we get it, and we're cool. So, so your sister, you say, was diagnosed 12 years ago. So that must have been an interesting ride for you. Tell me a little bit about your from an outsider's experience, and is your sister, is she involved in the diabetes community at all?
She's learning too. She didn't know anything about it at all until I started blogging, and then she subscribed to my blog, and then now she's seeing what I'm putting out, and so she's kind of becoming a part of it as well. And yeah, we actually rode in the ADA Tour de Cure last Saturday.
Oh, nice.
We rode together, so that was pretty neat.
Awesome. So do you wear a continuous glucose monitor for your exercise when you exercise?
I don't. I had one, and believe it or not, I lost it. So I'm in the process of getting another one right now.
So you rode in the Tour de Cure with no CGM. Give me a little, as a fitness person, and a lot of people watching know that I like to talk to people about their fitness regimens, whatever it is. Tell me a little bit how you manage that riding without, just stopping and checking, I'm guessing, yeah?
Yeah. They had three, I did 50 miles, so they had 3 checkpoints. And, I just tested before, and then at those 3, and then again after. And it stayed pretty good. I actually never got above 80 the whole time.
Wow.
But I did drop below 60 one time.
So what do you like to use to raise your glucose while you're working out? Because we have lots of different people that use lots of different stuff. So I always like to see what other people use.
Yeah. So I wasn't too particular. I had a box of raisins with me, but I sort of relied on what they had at the rest stops, because it was packed with food and snacks and things. So, and I knew that was going to be there. And so what I did is I just adjusted to whatever was available. So I took, I took a half a banana, and then I ate, they had some little peanut butter sandwiches. And so what I did was I took a couple of the peanut butter sandwiches, and I did an extended bolus for a couple of hours for those sandwiches. And they had jelly on them, so I didn't count for the jelly, just for the bread and the peanut butter. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, I was hungry, so I ate more than I needed to correct for the load, but I bolused on an extended bolus for the excess.
Nice. Very interesting. Yeah, I always love to hear about that, because I've interviewed so many people, and I mean, just being in the fitness industry myself, there's not one thing that works best for everyone. It's not like this is the thing that's going to work best for you during your long ride or your jog or your run or your cardio session or your weightlifting. It's just not. That's why I love to hear what works for everybody. I mean, for me, versus like I just actually got into recently, before going out for a jog, having dates, which I didn't realize how full of carbohydrates are, because I'm like kind of crazy in the sense that I don't like to put lots of like unnatural chemicals in my body, and a lot of glucose tabs and things like that have like food coloring and things like that. So dates, like these like, they look like a prune, but they don't really taste like prunes. One date has 18 grams of carbs in it. So if I have 2 dates and don't bolus before I go out for a jog, like perfect. And I just discovered this, so I'm so excited about it, because it's like actually fruit. It's not any like processed chemical thing. So that's like my new go-to thing for low blood sugars are dates, nature's candy apparently. So yeah, that's my thing. Cool. Yeah. So what else do you have coming up for the future? Any more rides? Any new blogs we should be looking for? He also has a really great ebook up. Go up as always. Don't go away. I'm gonna put all of Derek's links underneath my blog. You can just scroll down and go check out his blog and everything. But he also has a really cool ebook that you can go download. Just kind of how to navigate the diabetes online community. Was that born of you learning to navigate the diabetes online community?
Yes, that's exactly right. In fact, as I was kind of learning, I was kind of, bookmarking all these spots and places. And so it was sort of something that I wanted to have, one compilation of all these things in one spot. So I kind of made it a little bit for myself, but also for people in my situation who are kind of just finding this online community and not sure where to start. So I'll put some of the big ones on there, And actually, now that I found you, I need to add you on there.
Don't put yourself out, but thank you.
But anyway, yeah. So that was kind of the basis for it, is out of my need, and then I thought, well, hey, I bet others could benefit from this as well.
So is there any other thing, like projects that you're working on, informational ebooks that you're putting out, or anything else that you want the community to be on the lookout for?
Yeah, I have another ebook coming out, probably sometime in the next few months, and it's basically going to be kind of my tips and kind of 1,000-foot view on diabetes management, kind of the big tiers, the big pillars that I use. And I'm not sure what I'm going to call it yet.
That's okay.
But I have 3 kind of pillars that I like to use. One of them is teamwork. Basically, just talking about how diabetes is sort of a village effort. If you have a big family, and then the other 2 things are education and experimentation. And so I really think that education is key. I heard someone say recently that diabetics have to be smart, and that's true. You really can't just go along to get along. You really constantly have to educate yourself on what's out there, and like you mentioned before, it's a constant experimentation on what works for me, and how are these dates going to affect my blood sugar, and
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great progression, education and then experimentation. And I think they both kind of, there's going to be some blending of those lines, because for me, a lot of the learning that I've done is great. I have a bachelor's degree in nutrition science, but most of the stuff that I've learned about how nutrition works with the human body is by experimenting on myself. And luckily, I've learned a ton of stuff over the years, and have been blessed to work with hundreds of clients who have also benefited from the experiments that I had done, many years ago. But you're basically educating yourself while you're experimenting, if you're documenting things. And I always say this to people, I'm like, Google Documents, Google Drive, it's all free. If you're going to do something, just create yourself a little document and just type it up, get a little note, because it's so empowering to be able to go back and say, well, on this day I did this, and this is what happened. And even though it might not happen the same way 2 times in a row or 3 times in a row, as we all know, it doesn't always, but it's still nice to have the information available to you so you can educate and experiment and kind of do the same thing at once. I like it. Cool. So that's actually a good segue, because you're saying your tips. So we like to kind of know here and they can be the same thing you just said, but a little more personal. What are the top 3 tips that you abide by for thriving with diabetes? Like, what are Derek's top 3 tips for thriving with diabetes for you?
Yeah, I would say the first one is, you got to know what your blood sugar is. And you were talking about the continuous glucose monitor before, and I can't wait to get back on that monitor. Last time I went to the doctor, I was averaging taking my blood sugar 8.8 times a day. He said from my meter, he took that, which is some days it's less, but some days it's more. So that's the number one thing. Obviously, you have to know what your blood sugar is, and then the experimentation. I'm constantly trying to figure out, what's affecting my blood sugar. Is it actually the food, or is it something else? Is it stress? Is it something else going on?
Anything.
Anything, right? Yeah. You could list anything. And then I guess the last thing would be, and I kind of mentioned this before, but family. My wife helps me so much, and probably finding a reason greater than myself in my family, and wanting to be around for my kids, and wanting to show appreciation to my parents who took such good care of me as a kid, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's so important, just to have a reason bigger than yourself. I'm always talking about what's your why, and I've found over the years that so many people will do so much more for other people than they'll ever do for themselves. So I always tell people, if you can't find it in yourself to do this for yourself right now, you know, find somebody else that you want to do this for, that, like you said, you want to be around for, you want to be around to support and be, you know, be the best version of yourself for them so that they can lean on you if they need to. And then that generally snowballs into, hey, wait a minute, I deserve this for myself. I deserve to feel good too. And, you know, hopefully that's the progression that most people do take. So yeah, that's amazing. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and share your story with me. Before we kind of wrap things up here, is there anything else you want to add to the diabetes online community that may be watching?
No, I think that's it. You know, connect with me. That's all I can say. Everyone I've met has been so awesome. So I love connecting with people online. So check me out.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, I agree. Connecting with everybody else, that's my favorite part of the diabetes community as well.
Yeah.
So as usual, Derek will give me all of his links. They'll be right under the YouTube video and under the blog. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And I will see everybody on the next episode of Unleash Your Inner Diabetes Dominator. Take it easy, guys.